Welcome back to AutoTechNick, and today we have a very interesting video for you guys. I'm going to be walking you guys through the repair of a brake leak on a 1995 Ferrari 456. Yeah, I know what you guys are thinking. You see a 355 on the lift, you see a 458 behind me, and you don't see a 456. Well, that's because this is a repair I actually did a couple weeks ago, but I did not capture an intro for the video or the outro for the video. So here we are capturing those now. I'm actually going to jump over to that footage and dive right on in to the brake leak that we had to take care of. All right, guys, so before we jump straight into it, I figure I'll give you a quick look at the car that we're working on today. Now, this is a 1995 456 GT, so it's a 3-pedal car. And this car is in the shop for a pre-purchase inspection, or I should say a post-purchase inspection. It's a 41,000 mile-ish car. The client has owned it for about a year. He just wanted to get it in, have me look at it, have me give it a good look over, and let him know of the condition and what the car's needs are. But it also has this leak for the brake fluid that we're going to be talking about. But I just wanted to give you a peek of the car. It's actually a really clean car. It's in good shape considering the mileage and the age. And if you guys want, just keep an eye on the channel. There will be another full long form video on this car where I cover everything on the PPI, what I found, and cover this car's condition. Now for our brake leak, we have fluid. Might get you in there. You can see it's leaking. It's been leaking here on my lift actually. All that wetness here on this rear fender liner, that's all brake fluid. And I actually threw a pig mat down, but that pig mat's actually pretty well soaked. So all the brake fluid's leaking right down here. If we have the lift all the way up, you can actually see the brake fluid leaking down on my lift and dripping off of the lift pads there. And all of our fluid leak is actually coming from our pre-charge pump here. Now the customer did take this pre-charge pump off. He did think that it was in between the motor and the body where the fluid was leaking. And he re-sealed everything with an O-ring kit, put it back on. And he actually said that it seems the leak's gotten worse because he said it was a pretty minor leak. And I had the car here just overnight. It leaves a pretty good puddle. And we can actually see we've actually drained down quite a bit in our reservoir. I don't have a lot of visibility here. I've looked from the top side. I scanned everything. I don't see anything leaking from here from the top side. The leak is definitely coming from here. And if you kind of look around, you can see some of the evidence from what the brake fluid has done to some of the frame rail over there. My first move that I'm going to do is I want to get this pre-charge pump out. But I want to be very careful when I remove it because I don't want to disturb it, because the key is I want to remove it and get a view on the bottom side and see if I can identify exactly where the leak is coming from. So I want to be careful where I put my hands and what I'm doing and any fluid that I may spill in removal, so that way I could get this out as untouched as possible. It's going to be a pretty straightforward removal. We're going to take off this one bolt right here, this banjo bolt for our pressure feed line. Take our feed line, I should say this is our pressure line. Take our feed line right here, the low pressure side, take that hose off. There's either a clip, I can take this plastic fitting out, or I can do the hose clamp and take it out. Undo the connector right here, and we have two 13 millimeters for this entire bracket. We should have the whole assembly up and out. So I'm gonna set you guys down. I'm gonna work to get this fully removed. I'm gonna do my best not to disrupt anything. Once it's out, I'm gonna bring you back so we can take a peek at the bottom side and see if we can identify the general area where the leak is coming from. And then we're probably going to do some more disassembly to find out what the actual cause of the leak is. So I have some updates for you. The pre-charge pump is out. However, it didn't quite go as planned. There was more pressure from the accumulator on the system than I expected. So when I pulled off my pressure line, it ended up causing a fair amount of fluid to leak onto the pre-charge pump, which was what I did not want, because I wanted to get it out the best I could without any external brake fluid on it. Therefore, I could help find where this leak is, because it's a pretty significant leak. And I just wanted to see the general area where it was coming from. And because of that pressure that we have on the pump, you can see here that I have a fair amount of fluid on my pump, which is pretty much going to make that idea not going to work out for me. So I was hoping to get it off, and then once it was off, I was expecting to look underneath and find fluid dripping from the bottom, and that was going to help me isolate it. But now that I have fluid everywhere, I can't really do that. So my plan of attack here is really to disassemble it, inspect our O-rings and seals, see where it's at. And I do know that when it was in the car, I felt around pretty extensively, so I know it was not leaking from our banjo up here. I know it wasn't leaking from this, nothing here. This guy is a bit of a possibility where this sensor goes into the body, so we'll keep an eye on that right there. It did not appear to be leaking from right here. I felt around pretty carefully, but you can see we have these little balls. And those are typically in there because they need those ports for machining to machine the insides, and then they need to seal it because I should say they drill from the outside in to machine internal ports. They need them sealed, so they press in those little balls. Those could be a leak source. So we want to pay attention to that one. But there was also another one. Where was the other guy? Right there. Right on the bottom where you can't see it. So that's another area that we want to pay attention to. Be sure that ball is tight and it's not leaking. And then obviously the big obvious one, the electric motor to the body. There should be no fluid in the motor, just here on the body. So that right there could be definitely a leak path. My plan is to get this disassembled. I will pull this bracket off right here, which bolts on up there, get that off. I will take our motor off. I'll clean things up a little bit. There's no point in trying to keep it the way it was at this juncture of things. I'm gonna inspect the O-rings and seals, just spend a little bit of time looking over it. You know, best case scenario, I pull this apart and I find a smoking gun, find a torn seal or O-ring, something that's damaged. That would be amazing. I don't expect to find that. I expect to find everything in good condition, and we're gonna have to kind of analyze this and determine what our most likely cause of the leak is and what we're gonna do to rectify it. We're at a bit of a disadvantage on our heels because of this mess that got made, but that is just a fact of life. We're gonna work through it. So give me a couple minutes to get this apart. I'll bring you guys back and show you what I find. Well, welcome back, guys. Now it happens to be the following day, and I actually had a very productive day yesterday with our pre-charge pump here. It was a bit of a setback that I wasn't able to get it removed from the car without making a mess and getting more fluid on it like I planned. However, I'm very confident with what I found. I would consider it a smoking gun, which is exactly what I was looking for, and I'm pretty excited about it. And I think we have a path forward on how we're gonna repair it. I know that I didn't bring you guys back once I had this disassembled. I kind of just got wrapped up looking at it, analyzing it, and trying to determine what was going on. So I'm gonna have to show you that in a second, but because of the state that I have it in now, I basically set myself up where I could run a test overnight to confirm everything that I thought that was going on, and we'll be able to verify if we've actually corrected this problem. So I need to show you guys that first before we can talk a little bit more about it being disassembled itself. So ignore the fact that it's already fully disassembled here on the bench. But what I want to talk about and show you is I have right here this cavity. That is actually where the pump assembly itself goes. So here's our pump and our rotor. It just has this bearing and some ball bearings on it that operate the pump. So we have everything sitting right there. This is just a filter that went on the inlet. This is a retaining plate that went on top, held everything on the inside. And the motor clips into here and drives this assembly. And you can see I have the motor over here, and it's intentional the way it's sitting right now, because this motor, if you look right on the inside of that shaft, there's actually a seal right there, and that seal is preventing oil, because this is all an oil cavity, from going in this input shaft into the motor casing. So I had the motor propped up at a bit of an angle, you guys can see. Oh, no. All right, so that fell over. We'll come back to that. But I had this propped up just in case this seal had leaked and oil got into the casing of the motor. And we have our junction right here where you can see the paint is gone. So there's been about a lot of fluid leaking here, but I wanted to see if anything would leak out of this motor overnight with it tilted at an angle. And nothing really leaked out of it. So I didn't think that was the case, but I wanted to confirm. So I can eliminate the motor from the leak. And I will say right here, there's this O-ring that seals right up here that seals the motor to this assembly. I eliminated the motor from the assembly, and we can see that this actually tipped over. That's fine. But if you look here, right on this lower mount, you should be able to see a lot of ATF sitting on it right in the corner. And if we actually look up underneath, right in that little cavity, that hole, it's all wet inside there. I hope this focuses, and it's full of ATF. It's hard to, I guess I can flip this over now, dump out the rest of that fluid. It's right in that cavity where that recess is. There's ATF in there. So what I actually was looking at and noticing is you can see that this has like a goldish, silverish zinc or cad plating on this steel body. And if we look right up here, you can see where that finish is all eroded away. and it's hard to see with this camera, but I looked, you can see on the end where the numbering is, it's all eroded away right there as well. And on the inside, it's eroded away. And if we follow it, we can follow it all the way along the body, and it comes all the way up here to where it met the motor. And when it's installed in the car, lo and behold, that's the bottom point. So I saw that and I was like, well, we're more than likely leaking fluid out of here. That brake fluid is corrosive, so it's eating away that plating, and then it's just running down with surface tension along the body until it gets to here, which is the lowest point, and then leaking off, which made it look like it was this O-ring in between the body and the pump assembly. So as we saw how we had it set up, I had it set up like this overnight. I cleaned all the oil off this yesterday. I mean, I cleaned it extremely well. I set this up, I filled this cavity with fluid, and I let gravity do its work. And I could tell you within about an hour, I already saw fluid starting to leak out right up where that, this shaft, whoop, right there, that shaft is pressed into the body. You got to think, when this is in the car and installed, in between the pump and the accumulator, there's a lot of pressure here. So there's far more pressure, and I didn't even have any pressure on it with it sitting overnight, and it was able to leak to the point to where it actually left fluid on my pig mat here from just overnight, with just gravity, no pressure at all applied to it. So that tells me that my leak is coming right there from that junction of this steel shaft into this body. Why it made it 30 years and never leaked and just started to leak now, I don't know. So what are our options with that? I'm a firm believer in anything that can be built can be rebuilt. I've always felt that way. Sometimes it's not cost effective to rebuild things, it's easier to replace them, but that is my general philosophy when you encounter things. This shaft right here is pressed into this body. I don't know what they sealed it with, if there's anything at all, if it's just a really tight press fit, but my thinking is if this shaft was pressed in and installed, I can take this shaft out, reseal it, and reinstall it. That's my train of thought. These are no longer available new, and our only option to buy a different one would be a used unknown unit. I figure it's better to use the unit that we know that everything else on it is functional and working, and seeing if we can press the shaft out, get it resealed and reinstalled. So my plan of attack for today, I'm going to try to press the shaft out, reseal it with some sleeve retainer, reinstall it. Now I think from looking at it, you can see that it's inset in there. So I'm going to take measurements of how deep it is on this side. And again, I'll take measurements so it's how deep it is on this side protruding from the base, so I can get it back in the same position. I don't know if my camera is going to capture it, but there is some ports and orifices on the side of the shaft. So I am going to mark it. I'll make a reference mark. I'll probably use these mounting holes for the pump motor. Maybe make a line across the shaft so I can get everything indexed exactly the same. I don't see how it would make a difference on its function, but I don't want to introduce any variables if I don't have to. So I'm going to get some reference points of the depth, the positioning of the shaft. I'll get everything cleaned up so I don't have to deal with the brake fluid. And I think I'm going to press it this way because there's no sense in pressing nearly an inch of shaft all the way through this hole when I could press out the other way that's less pressing. So we're going to work it from this side. I've tried to take this out and I can get it to spin, but it's pressed in there pretty tight. I cannot get it to easily come out. So I might see if I can work around it. Not sure. We'll just have to go and just see how it works. So that's the plan. Get everything cleaned up. I'm gonna see if I can get this shaft pressed out. We're gonna inspect everything and see what's going on once it is pressed out. And then if everything looks good, like I hope, we'll use some sleeve retainer that is going to seal it. That's my main focus. I'm not worried about retaining this in there. I wanna seal it up. So we'll get that resealed, pressed back in, set in the right position, let that sleeve retainer set up, reassemble everything, and see if that works. I'm gonna work to get this removed. Once this is removed, I'll bring you guys back so we can see what we ended up with. And there's one important thing to note when it gets into doing stuff like this, where I did have a conversation with the client last night. I told him what I found. I told him and showed him pictures and videos of it leaking just from yesterday, and it wasn't remotely as bad as it was today. I had the conversation with him, letting him know that, you know, we're going off of a dirt road here. Essentially, we're no longer on paved road. Meaning, I can't guarantee the results that I'm diving into on what we're doing. I can't guarantee that there's not going to be any further damage it causes if we're going to damage this and it's not going to be usable anymore. But where we're at is we don't have a lot of options, and our only choice is to give this a shot. He understands that, and that's what's important when doing stuff like this. I'm very confident in my skill and ability And my understanding of this, they get this out, back in, and everything working so it doesn't leak. But there is just that chance that there's something that pops up that I'm not aware of, that I just want to be sure that the client knows, so that way if a worst case scenario does happen, he's not surprised by it. We've already had that conversation up front. If this doesn't work, then we're left with our other option of buying a used unit. Now this Teves system is used in a lot of cars, not just Ferrari, so we could buy one for other cars. They're not overly expensive, a little bit hard to find, but they are out there. So we do have a backup plan. But whenever it comes to doing something like this, especially if I haven't done it on this particular part, I do like to have that conversation so that way they know where we're going. I do not like surprising my clients. I don't like finding myself in that situation. I do not like putting them in that situation. So that is a conversation I have before I dive into something like this. I will say though, this is the kind of stuff that I actually thrive on. I love fixing the unfixable. I just absolutely love it. This stuff is food for my brain. I really like it. It's just fun. This is like ultimate stuff for me when I'm out here doing something that is difficult to find, difficult to diagnose. You have to think, how are we going to fix it? I love it. This one's relatively pretty simple. It worked out good, and I'm pretty confident that's going to be our leak based on how much fluid we have. Enough talking from me. I'm going to get our shaft pressed out, get these parts cleaned up. I'll see you guys back here in a second. All right, so we're making progress and we're also learning a lot of things, which is absolutely my favorite place to be. So here's what we have. The shaft, it is out. We also had an end cap here that was in there, so we were not looking at the end of the shaft, we were looking at the end of this cap. Now we talked before we started doing this that I was going to try to press the shaft out this way because there was less shaft in the body. Well, I can tell you that that was the wrong way to go. Although my instincts were right, this is really our collateral damage where we ended up pressing it, and you can see that it left an indentation from where my socket was, and that is because it turns out that there is a small shelf in there. I was just pressing this up against the shelf. Obviously I got a little bit of pressure on there. I realized it wasn't going to go, so then I decided to stop what I was doing, and I'm like, well, I'm going to give it a little bit of pressure on this side, pushing this way on the shaft, and see if it's any different. Lo and behold, everything just pressed out right away. So that's one thing we learned right there. There's an end cap on this piece. It's counterintuitive to what I thought. We need to press it from the inside out, which will just naturally press this end cap out by itself. It'll get our shaft out. Now I have my two dial indicators here that I have set for the height. This one was set for the height on the inside. We'll talk about that guy in a second. But I have this set on the inside and this was on the outside, and I'm glad that I did both because since we had this cap here, that means this outside measurement one, that one doesn't really matter. That's not a accurate depth reading because this is just a cap that sits on the shelf, and the one that matters is the one on the inside, which we have there. So we did ourselves a favor by grabbing the depth of each one, and since I have dual veneer calipers here, I just went and locked them in position to make it easy for myself, and it's redundant. Now another thing I talked about was scribing the shaft so that way we knew its orientation. So you can see that I scribed a line on it, and then I put a small punch mark on the shaft as well, so I knew where I could orient this shaft back into this housing. And yet another good thing, and this is stuff that I've learned over the years by not doing this, so you guys are kind of watching me reap the rewards of years of failures in this sense, to where you can see that this has ports, it has orifices, and this 100% is directional in the way that it goes in to our pump body here. If we look on the inside, you should be able to see where they drilled through, and there's orifices there on either side. If I can get you that other one maybe. Hopefully you can see it. It's right there. You can see they drilled through with that ball. It goes through. We can see right up and in there. The location of this in terms of its clocking in degrees is important, and its depth. That all matters. Let's talk about this leak. This should be sealed tight into this housing, so theoretically no fluid should be getting past this shaft, right? Well, if we flip to the bottom side, look what we have there. We have where they machined in a port, and then they use those balls to seal the ports up afterwards. So they put in that little ball bearing and dimple it in. But we have another port on this side that's exposed and open that feeds up right here. So I was looking at this, I was studying this. I actually pulled up the hydraulic diagram that I found for this assembly online, and I don't see any reason why we have this port open here on the back side, because this piece sits in like right there, and when it's pressed all the way in, get some light so you guys can see. I don't think we're going to get any good light back here.
But when it's pressed in with that open port, it's going to allow pressure to get to the back side, and the only thing holding that pressure in is our cap right here. So I was kind of looking at it and I'm studying, and I'm like, well, I can press this back in. I can put some sleeve retaining compound around this cap to press it back in. And that sleeve retaining compound isn't so much to hold this in, but it is used to seal it up so there's no pressure. But I was thinking that that's a pretty thin line of defense on preventing any further fluid leaks. That's not a whole lot right there. And as I studied this, I'm like, there's no reason that we need this port open on the back side. There's nowhere for that fluid to go other than to push against this cap and potentially cause a leak. So that's where this little guy right here comes in. So I took that little sleeve, and I think what I'm gonna do is I'm able to get that up and in that hole right there. It's a nice tight fit, and I'm gonna use the sleeve retainer and lock that in place in the bottom, which is gonna seal the bottom of this shaft up. All of our orifices up here are still gonna work just fine. We're just closing in this end like we have over here at this spring, or this ball essentially. Then I'm gonna use that sleeve compound and put it around the sleeve retainer, put it around the shaft. We're gonna press it back in, we're gonna clock it correctly, we're gonna set our depth, and that's gonna give me the first line of defense, where theoretically no brake fluid should be able to get past this sleeve whatsoever, and it'll be pressed into this housing. It's just sitting in there now, but you'll see, if I get my hands oriented with this light, it'll be sealed there, so theoretically once I seal that open hole and press that shaft in and seal it, no fluid should get past any of that and leak. Then we will use our sleeve retainer again on this cap, put that in and press it in. It's just a security measure to be sure that nothing leaks out of it. Now we're kind of going through and making a deviation and modification. Like I said, I've studied this quite a bit. I don't think installing this little guy is going to have any negative consequences. The benefit or good thing here is this is basically what provides our brake assist on the car. So if I do something that prevents this unit's ability to generate pressure, I'm going to feel it immediately. And well, then if I put this back together, bleed the system, and I don't have power assist, we'll just take this back out and we'll take this piece off, put it back together and reevaluate. But I'm pretty confident we're going to be fine with doing that, and it's going to give us an extra layer of protection on preventing any leaks. So here's how this is going to play out. There's like a 2-hour setup time for the sleeve retainer right here, and it really needs a 24-hour cure time. So I'm gonna get this set in place into the shaft. I'm gonna get everything pressed back in and indexed. It's all pretty straightforward stuff. You just have to pay attention to how you took it apart. Then I'm gonna reassemble our pump, our motor, this entire unit. I'll probably put it back into the car today, but not introduce any fluid into it. I'll let it sit overnight, then we'll come back out here tomorrow, bleed the brakes, make sure we have power assist, and we should be good to go. So I'm gonna focus on that, and I will probably just bring you guys back here tomorrow. So we're already gonna have this unit in the car, and we'll see how this repair ends up working in the long run. So here's where we're at. Yesterday, I was able to get our pre-charge pump reassembled. So I got the blocking piece put back in the shaft. I got the shaft pressed in the correct orientation, set the depth, and actually the shaft was easy enough where I was able just to gently tap it in with a hammer, kept checking the depth until I got it just right. It really didn't take much effort at all to get it driven back in there. We did use the sleeve retainer on all 3 pieces, so on the shaft itself, on our piece of metal that we put in the shaft to block the bottom orifice, and also on the bottom cap that's on the back side. So I got that taken care of, and I actually let it sit for 24 hours before I filled our pump cavity with fluid. And this is the same test we did when we identified our leak initially, and this fluid has been sitting in there overnight. And is what we want to see when we come down to the bottom, is we want to get right up and in there, and it is dry, 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 bone dry. Now the first time I did this, I had a pretty sizable puddle that leaked out before we went in and did our repair, and this is a pretty strong indication that we got it taken care of, and a little bit of sleeve retainer was all it took. Granted, we had to get everything taken apart, and we made that small modification to make it a little bit more resilient to future leaks. Now that that is sat overnight and there's no fluid leaking, I am confident to button that back up, get it put back together, and get it reinstalled into our car, get our brakes bled, we'll get the car out on a test drive, and then I'll probably let the car sit here for a little bit while I'm, maybe for a day or so, just to be sure that there's no further leaks coming from that before we return the car back to the client. But we're in good shape because that is a part that is not available brand new anymore. Hard to find used and in unknown condition, and all it took was us a little bit of time, a little bit of thinking to get that taken care of and repaired without really having to invest a whole lot.
So my plan for today is to get our pre-charge pump fully reassembled, get it back into the car, get our brakes bled, and ideally I'd like to get the car out on the road, take it on a road test to make sure all of our brakes are working properly and that we have no further leaks. I'm going to focus on getting all that taken care of, and I'll see you guys back here shortly once all that is wrapped up. Well, I have updates for you guys, and it's not great news. I think we can kind of leverage that old saying that the path to hell is paved with good intentions, and seems that I paved myself a pretty nice road. Pre-charge pump. I got it all reassembled, completely put back together, and we had it put back into the car. I went to bleed the brakes, and I was unable to build any brake pressure. So this was not providing any assist. I kind of fussed with it. I cracked the lines. I was trying to get it to bleed the system if there was any air trapped in it. And it seemed that nothing that I was doing was allowing this pump to build any pressure in the system. I couldn't charge the accumulator. I had no brake assist. So after fussing with it for a good while, I decided to bite the bullet, take it back out of the car, take it fully apart, disassemble it, inspect it, and see if I could figure out what's going on. Unfortunately, no smoking guns. I really couldn't find anything that's going on, and you can see that I've even pressed out our end cap and our shaft. So I took our shaft all the way out. So basically, this is the point where I'm at right now. And what I'm thinking here, as you see right here, I went and this is that little piece that I plugged that hole with down there at the bottom. And although I still, after inspecting it, cannot determine any reason why that hole would need to be open, that's the only thing I changed. So I'm here basically where I'm at now is I'm gonna eliminate variables, and that is a variable that I introduced into it. And maybe there's something going on here that I'm not understanding, so we're gonna put this back and configure it in the factory configuration. Now, I did take this shaft all the way out, and I did so I could take it out, and I wanted to be sure that none of our sleeve retainer accidentally got in any of the orifices or holes and had them plugged. Everything seemed fine. Now that we have this piece out, I'm going to leave the sleeve retainer off of our shaft. I just have it pressed back in the position where it needs to be, how it originally was, setting our depth with our vernier caliper. I'm going to put sleeve retainer on this cap. I'm going to press it back in. Unfortunately, I have another 24-hour cure time to let this sit back up before I could put fluid in it and get this reassembled back into the car. So that's really the downside of this, and that's kind of like where I was saying that I've kind of paved my road to hell on this one because it burns time. It's each time I fuss with it and break that Loctite or that sleeve retainer, it's just going to burn a little bit of time to repair it, makes it drag on. I'm confident I know why this is. We knew where this is leaking. I know what I need to do to get it to seal. We need to get this end cap sealed up, but now we got to get this back together so the pump is functioning correctly. It's a brake item, safety item. It has to work. No questions asked. So we took out the modification we made. I'm going to be very careful on reassembling it, and I was looking right before I started filming, I was inspecting where our pump cavity is, and you can see right up, let me grab a screwdriver and show you. Right up into this area, it's a little larger and recessed. This right here is our inlet hole that comes in from our feed line here on the front. And I was looking at this plate that covers up the pump assembly, and you can see that it has the same oval on it. So I was thinking maybe I had this indexed wrong, and I need to index that up at the top, because when this is sitting in the car, that's up, and that's going to allow, this is our low pressure area. It's going to allow the fluid to get inside there into this pump. And this pump essentially is, all it is these two ball bearings in this shaft. They spin, fluid pressure and centrifugal force push those ball bearings out. They ride in the groove of this race right in here. And if I set this in there, get this slid in, and I should be able to slide this in one-handed. There we go. You have to look carefully, but you'll see that the center black piece is offset to the outer race that's in there. So those balls, as they move in and out, that's where it pinches down the fluid, squeezes it, and that's what builds pressure. So what I was thinking is maybe if I didn't have that opening where those balls can gather the most amount of fluid in there, I was starving this pump from fluid, and that's why it wasn't able to prime and build pressure. As I'm talking you guys through that, I'm looking, that's our inlet hole, but our biggest gap is up there at the top. I might give that some looking, thinking, trying to determine what is the best placement for that. There is some witness marks from where it was installed. Unfortunately, I don't think I took a picture of this before I disassembled it, so that's my bad on that.
more important part, we're gonna get this back installed. We have this out of it. Let this cure for 24 hours. I'm gonna reinstall it, and hopefully that'll take care of my issue. My plan of attack here is just to focus on getting that done, get it back in the car where it works, and then I'll bring you guys back. And hopefully I'll just bring you back and say exactly what I just did worked. If I have to do more work, well, then I guess I'll fill you in on the details at that time. So I'm gonna see you guys back here in a little bit when I have the pre-charge pump installed and functional.
Well, we're back. Unfortunately, our 456 is not in the shop anymore, and I actually had several things. It was really the perfect storm that just led up to the fact that I was not able to get out here and recap the conclusion of the repair on the car. I had to do a short notice remote PPI, so I had to fly out, get that PPI done, and I ended up getting very sick during that PPI. Powered through that trip, came home, and I was down and out I was pretty much a zombie for an entire week. Did not come in the shop at all. And then it took me about another week to kind of get up to 80% functionality. In that time, I had already had the 456 wrapped up, but the client came and picked the car up, so I wasn't able to grab the camera and really film the finale of the car. I can recap you guys and walk you through what I ended up finding. So I got everything reassembled with the pre-charge pump with that piece removed, put it back in the car. I will say, I had the same issue with getting the brakes bled. I don't think that piece I added in was the cause of my issue. When I initially put it in, I was very quick to bail on the idea. And that's one thing that I've learned over the years, where I am very okay with making a change or modification, but I'm also equally as okay with admitting that sometimes that's not right. I want to undo it. And I just didn't really, I don't know, I didn't like the piece in there. I figured that I could still get everything repaired and sealed up without having it in there, and it's less of a liability with it in there. So I was quick to jump the gun, pull that out, and then put it back in the car. So we're jumping forward to when I had it with the piece removed and just the sleeve retainer on the end cap in the car. It was still not able to basically get the air out of the pump, to get the pump to build pressure so I could bleed the brakes. I ended up overcoming that with just going through and bleeding the brakes, my pressure bleeder with the key on, pumping the pedal, and that went and allowed everything to bleed, get the air out of the system, and get everything functioning again. I'm very confident that if I would have done that with that piece in the pump, I would have had the same result. Everything would have worked. Very confident in that. But either way, I got that taken care of. Brake leak, gone. It did not return. Car drove great. The car actually sat here while I was sick a lot of the time and on that remote PPI, so I was able to see if any fluid returned. No fluid returned. No leaks returned. We had it taken care of, so that was the smoking gun, was where it was leaking out of that end cap. The sleeve retainer did fix the issue. Brake fluid's not going to break down that sleeve retainer. It's going to be a permanent repair. I did talk to the client and I said, worst case scenario, we can just weld the end of this up. I mean, that is an extreme, not very reversible way to go about it, but we had different options if the sleeve retainer didn't work. But it worked just like we hoped. And the client picked the car up. He did give me a text as soon as he got home. He said the brakes felt a lot better. He was really happy with it. So worked out really great. Like I said at the beginning of the video, this is one of those fun things that I like to do. I like to get in and take things apart, see how they work, understand them better, find what or where the problem is and actually fix it, rather than just pull that pump out, put a new pump in, and call it a day. I get so much more enjoyment about going about it this way because it helps me understand it. I get my hands on the parts. I get a better understanding of the part, the system, and everything about it. And that just really helps me in the long run working on these cars. So it was a lot of fun. Hopefully we'll get more things like that on the channel where we could dig in, do some exploratory surgery, kind of do some, off the road fixes and get things taken care of. But for now, that's all we have on this one, guys. I just want to thank you very much for watching the channel. Appreciate your support. Appreciate all of you that joined the channel membership greatly. Thank you for that extra support. You guys know the drill. Be sure to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, drop a comment below, share the video with a friend. As always, we'll see you guys on the next one.